Hello to all you beautiful souls out there. I'm Claudia C.J. Miller, and I'd like to welcome you to Whole Earth Healing Radio, bringing you a more holistic perspective on the Earth and the cosmos, with interviews and discussions with some of today's most inspiring minds. Today is August 29th, 2013, and we have a spectacular return guest with us today, Franco DeNicola. The last time we spoke with Franco, it was about 12-12-12 and beyond, and it was an incredibly rich and informative discussion at a very poignant time. Now, Franco DeNicola is here to assist with the shift of 2012 and beyond. Not only a spiritual teacher and speaker, Franco also gives consultations for individuals and groups, performing guided meditations and clearings, as well as providing guidance and insight with the nuts and bolts of life as they affect our relationship to ourselves and all others. For those not familiar with Franco, I would suggest listening to our previous interview on Whole Earth Healing Radio or any of the other fabulous interviews and programs out there on YouTube. You can learn more about Franco DeNicola by visiting his website at www.francodenicola.com. Franco also collaborated with Collective Evolution, and he currently is doing a lot of work with Masterpiece Life, all based out of Toronto, Canada, and some wonderful, inspiring souls doing great work on the planet today. I'll have the links below the video for all of you to access those websites as well. So without any further ado, I'd like to welcome Franco to our show. Hello, Franco.
Hello, Claudia. Thank you for having me on and this opportunity for us to play and really assist in expanding our beautiful playground and all the beautiful playmates that we are involved with.
Well, thank you so much for coming on Whole Earth Healing Radio again. I had such a great time interviewing you back then, and what an interesting time that was, December 12th, 2012, and then it was the 21st of December 21st, which is a very big time, and so that was such a powerful interview, and so many things have happened since then, and so I mean, I love your work. I love your clearings. I'm a huge fan, and I'm sure many of our listeners, of course, are huge fans of your work. And but I am just so happy that you're here today, and thanks again for coming on. But I thought I'd like to start today by discussing some of the changes that have occurred on the planet and in the collective since we last spoke on 12-12-12 and beyond. There have been many poignant dates since then in 2013, activation times, and different people have different dates that they're talking about. But most recently you did a show with Masterpiece Life, I believe it was August 8th, entitled The 4D Activation, which was wonderful. And I thought we could maybe talk about that a little bit, and if you could explain to our listeners the importance of August 8th and what was the purpose of the 4D activation.
Well, yes, thank you for allowing me the opportunity. There's been a lot of activations. I mean, since we last spoke, I mean, there's been quite a few different activations that have occurred, and all of it, again, is all to contribute. All of it is to stimulate the changes that are occurring within ourselves, within the planet. I mean, we're going through a major, major upgrade here, and this upgrade is not just, for our planet, for our human experience. It is, a galactic and universal upgrade. So as things are upgrading as all part and parcel of everything around us at this point in time, we are experiencing quite a few changes, and so there's been a lot of different dates that have been specifically tuned for new waves of energy, new activations occurring, and of course the one on August the 8th was the last quadrant, quadrant activation for the fourth dimensional consciousness. It has been split up into four, and of course the beginning ones were, in November it was the first activation, and then we had the second activation, which was on the 12th of December, and then of course the 21st was the third. But there's been a lot following after that to stimulate it, to move it forth, and this August 8th, the one that we just passed just recently, was the last activation, what we can call source codes, to bring the planet and all the souls that are ready to fully, or to actually take the steps to fully integrate into fourth dimensional consciousness. Now, the reason it has been split is because we are coming from a very dense third dimensional consciousness, and to have it all in one swoop would have been a little bit more of a challenge, and it would have taken quite a toll for many people, and it would have felt very, very uncomfortable for that leap at that point. And because of all that is being designed along the way, is always, again, harmonizing and making sure that the transitions are done in such a fashion that we do create a certain flow without, creating a very harsh change of any sort. So after the three, the last one, was quite a few months later, 7 months to be exact, or more, and so that was the last one. Of course, we've had a couple of recently. We had on the 25th of July, or hang on, 28th of July, and then we had the 28th of August, which were two other portal openings that had occurred, which again was more encodements to stimulate more changes within ourselves and also to stimulate energy changes on the planet. Now, as I think we may have covered some of this before, but as we went along, I mean, we've gone through a major transitional aspect of things to ramp up and ready for this change. And since then, I mean, the energy of the planet has been increasing, and as we can see, as we can witness, all the unrest and unstableness in a way that's looking forth right now with all our structures and our systems and the way of life that we've adopted with. We also see it with a lot of unrest happening around the world with people. There's people coming up and right now, resisting or creating, gatherings where they're not allowing, certain corporations, certain regulations and so forth to go in place, which is not conducive to what we want as a whole. So you're seeing, people coming together and protesting and so forth. But also, not only that, you can also see all the different levels of information that's coming up from, from people that are in the systems themselves. They're coming out and speaking out and saying, well, this is really what's happening. More and more people are more observant to the changes and also are feeling that, we're ready. There's something happening here. Now it's time to change. So all of this has been all part and parcel, and it's kind of been working in a way that it's just keeping a momentum going, but it's also speeding up. And as you notice, things are speeding up very quickly. The interesting part of it is now what we were able to accomplish, which would have taken sometimes decades and centuries and millenniums to make these changes come about. We're doing it in a matter of months, weeks, days, and hours at this time. And you could see how many people are now awakening or opening their eyes and saying, look, we're in this reality here. Now, when they're looking at the reality, they see a whole different view of the reality. They see a whole different view of the experience of being on the planet here and say, no, the thing is, what we are playing with right now is not feeling in harmony with us any longer. And we are also coming to the observation that really we're not just puppets here that, we have to abide to whatever anyone says. We're now looking at it and saying, well, look at, we are really in charge of what we create, what we experience in our world. And if we come together and we choose a new reality, we create a whole different experience, we can change anything because nothing is locked up. Nothing is, said in a way that this is the way it needs to be and nothing can be questioned. So all of this is coming through right now. And, as much as we've done so far, this is still sort of the beginning because things are ramping up even further and further and further. So back to the August 8th, that was the last activation that occurred for the fourth dimensional consciousness. Now the planet itself and all the souls that are on the planet have basically should be fully integrated by January 2014. But as we're going into that, the energies and frequencies will shift even further so that it will push people to the souls in physical form to get on to shifting from their 3D world to a 4D world. And when we're talking about that, we're letting go of our material, locked up body reference point of this is who I am, to a very open, much more conscious state where we realize that we're more than this physicality. So at this point, most of the people are also realizing that a lot of the stuff that they've attached themselves and utilized as their stability now is becoming less and less stable. So they're now, in the first response when we're still in that state of unconsciousness is to react with fear and to look at, oh my God, I won't have my job, I won't have this, I won't have that, and I trusted the government, I trusted the doctors, I trusted all the things that I've taken on, religion, otherwise, and now there's that stability is breaking down because there's new levels of truth coming out, and there's so many things coming there that we cannot attach ourselves to. And as that comes about, then we start realizing that it's not about that. It's about for us to find our own grounding, to find our own essence within it, and no longer relying with what's outside of us, but also to create something new within ourselves that will be expressed externally at this point in time, what we call the physical world. But so as this is going on, as you've noticed, Claudia, there's more and more people's emotions coming up, a lot of the old memories, there's challenges in all levels, but the challenges are not there to challenge us in a sense where it's trying to take us down or just make things difficult. The challenge is there only as when we are holding on to something. So basically there's a trigger saying, okay, we need to let go of our old way of the world. We need to let go of everything that we defined ourselves and created realities about ourselves and about our world and about our interactions with other souls. So for us to do that, for us to go through that part, we need to let all this stuff go. So it's being brought up to the surface, and seeing that we can no longer function with it, then we can actually address it. So this is all part and parcel of the changes that are going on that is being stimulated at this time. I mean, as we go down the line with the dates, I mean, we're looking at, there's a lot of events coming into the fall of this year, which is just around the corner because basically we're already into September next week, and we're coming into our opportunity at this point in time to shift into the season fairly soon. But as we're going into that, the energies again are changing as we go along. There's a lot of other unrest and so forth will come about, which basically is just bringing out higher levels of truth and also showing the non-functionality of certain systems and so forth that we have, so that we can actually look at it and make modifications to it and step forward from it. So we're looking at that and going into the fall, into the winter, but then there's even another wave of changes that will occur throughout the whole of 2014, because the intention of the collective, and when I talk about the collective, we're talking about the collective of everyone on the planet here, but also the collective of all our brother, sister souls in the very quadrant of the galaxy that we are functioning in, because it's all interconnected. We're not separate. So as a collective, our intention is to create the environment so that we can actually shift into a fifth dimensional consciousness by the beginning of 2015, and really to have as many souls as possible shift from a third to a fourth by the end of next year. And the souls that have chosen not to be able to make it, and for whatever reason, because again, it's up to the soul. Nobody's being pushed off the planet. Nobody's, pushed to make any decision of anything at this point in time. It's not like there's some other external force that is, saying, you don't pass, you're out of here. It's more the energies will increase. The uncomfortability will increase if we're still trying to hold on to the 3D world. And then the soul saying, it's not conducive for me anymore here, and I'm also feeling I'm not contributing to the whole, which is all aspects of each other, and I'm choosing at this point in time to either create a different experience or step out, whatever that may be. So that's kind of the intention, the push that is moving forward into, basically all of 12-14 going into 2015. And then after that, the planet will go through a series of activation into the fifth with all the souls that are ready. and we have basically the full year, or 2 years in this case, to complete integration. So by the time we get into 2017, the intention is for the planet itself to be fully integrated in the fifth dimensional consciousness, and every soul on the planet that is chosen to be at least to be in the entry point of the fifth dimensional consciousness, and that is the full intention of a collective at this point in time. So there's going to be a lot of changes. Now, part of that will also be representative to a lot of things that we've attached ourselves to. Even the whole concept of the money system will, the power that we've given to money, which basically dictates what we do, how we do it, when we do it, who gets what, who doesn't get what. The haves and have-nots have created separations, restrictions, or created, lack or anything of that nature. And then it's been a deciding factor for what is being produced as services and goods and so forth, and how we produce it and how it needs to be disposable and so forth, will be greatly reduced by the end of next year. In a sense, we're not going to give it as much power. So the decisions that we will be making from that point as we move forward will be more holistic, where we are looking at and saying, well, whatever we are doing here, now let's look at what really truly serves us, and what doesn't we no longer maintain or create something completely new that serves the whole. It will not be money driven to the same extent as we have now, because the money aspect of it, how it's been programmed and played with, seems to be the governing factor of how we do what we do and when we do it. And of course, as you can see, we can touch upon that. I mean, we have a lot of technology advancements, and we also have a lot of very holistic advancements for humanity to basically not be continuing experiencing the different levels of structures and limitations or illnesses, or the dealing with famine, or even looking at having, running into this idea that, we have something outside of us that can hurt us and so forth. We have the capability to have resources and everything else available, and also much more efficient and highly clean resources. But it's been held back because of the game of the money aspect of it. But a lot of that will change. I'm not saying everything will come apart because of it. It will greatly transform, but there's going to be several years of transitional aspects that will come along the way. So people will come more together to be that holistic expression within on the planet.
Well, that's wonderful to hear. Gosh, it's very hard to, I think, because we've been in that money system for so long, money governing pretty much everything, what's produced, what we need, and then so much of it is just really an illusion of a profit-driven corporate economy that is all about making money. So, that sounds very, to me, I'm like, bring it on. I'm ready for that to happen. I think for the average person, it might, as you said, you mentioned about fear, the fear stage, and I think that that's really true, and that's what's happening right now, is that as things are crumbling, as the truth is coming up more and more, and it seems like there's like on a macrocosmic and microcosmic stage, it's like in the individual things are coming up, the truth is coming up, so that people can look at what no longer works and let it go. Mm-hmm. And it's also happening on a collective level in the governments and in the different countries where the systems are the truth is coming up and it's systems are breaking down. So, but to make room for what is so much better for all of us, it seems to me a coming together of people, because money is not something that brings people together. It's something it's like a division tool. It's something to separate people, the haves and have-nots.
Exactly. Exactly.
So it sounds like that's what you're saying. So by 2015, you think that even or will it be all the way until 2017 to have that that change in place, where money will no longer have the same power that it has now?
The power will be reduced along the way, and basically by the time we step into 2015, of course, the power that it had will be greatly reduced. As we go along, we're looking into 2017, where it would actually transform even further. The first step would be clearing up all debt. The second step will make sure that while this is being adjusted along the way, that everybody has a certain accessibility of it, so that it will take them out of the survival state, so that it will create some ease, so people can focus on self-growth, self-discovery, to actually change their way of perceiving life and so forth, rather than still every morning or every depending on where you are, getting up and have to go to work and have to go do something. I have to go and produce something so that I have money, so I can have a roof over my head, I can have food on the table, that I can actually get some things that I basically need. If you really look at it, the amount of energy, the amount of attention, amount of time that's invested to acquire money, it is tremendous in amount. Because if you look at it, from the moment you're born, you already are being programmed and conditioned to fit the mold of being self-sufficient and to address yourself through the survival aspect of it. From there, education is all geared to program you so that you can actually go out there and produce something so that you would have an income. And then the amount of years that are spent working every day. And in most cases, you're doing something you don't even enjoy. You're just doing it with the illusion, if I do this, I can survive. And if I do it hard enough, and then I can be smart enough, or I can play the game in a certain way, that I can have more abundance than somebody else, and I can feel good about myself and so forth. When you really look at it, the majority of the whole lifetime is not about experiencing life, connecting with one another, playing and being free and expressing and experiencing, discovering yourself. It's about living the survival. And even the ones that are trying to live the dream of creating an ideal life, most cases, the ideal life that they're chasing, that they're projecting, is an illusion anyways, because it's believed to be that this is going to solve my issue with my life. I'm going to feel good. I'm going to be able to, identify myself as somebody that is resourceful or good or whatever it is from it. But in actual fact, most of it is just, again, living that illusion. And even the ones that do achieve it, they say, well, I don't even know what's the special thing about getting here, now that I have enough abundance to do whatever I want. I'm still not experiencing freedom. I'm not still experiencing any level of joy or peace in my life, So that part of it is not. So if you look at it, there's so much energy put into creating and chasing this illusion. Because if you really want to know the truth, Claudia, the actual fact is, the fact that you have incarnated, taking a physical form, the moment you arrive on the planet, the true state is you have complete accessibility to anything and everything on the planet on an equal scale with each and every single soul that's on the planet at this time. Everything is to be shared. Everything is completely available. No one owns anything. No one is better than someone else, and no one is less than someone else. No one has authority over anyone else. Everyone is here on an equal plane to come here to play with absolute freedom. So every system that pulls you away from that is not of our natural design. Our natural design is that what I've just stated. So the money, if you look at it, that it's an illusionary thing that was put into place, not for the highest good of mankind. And even the barter or anything else that may have applied before is the same thing. The fact that we have to exchange, the fact that we need to, earn our way, because, when you look at it and say, what are you earning? I've had many people say, well, I work hard and I earn my money. And I say, what do you do? If you start looking at what you do, are you actually creating a huge value for the betterment of mankind? Or are you just shuffling something around or creating some widget or creating some service that just for the sake of creating that illusion. The same thing with the economy. When I hear from people say, well, we have to rebuild the economy, we have to get everybody back to work. To work to do what? I mean, most of the things that are out there, 90% of everything that's out there is a make-work project. None of it is of any use, really. We're creating things that are disposable, so the fact that we can produce more of it. We're creating things that break down in a very short period of time so that it does not have longevity so that we can replace it. We're creating markets, ideas, and duplications of different ideas or services and so forth so that we all have, something generated. Then we create all these structures so that, we have to have all these people managing nothing, really. And then when you look at the whole concept of money, where does it even come from? It's just an organization that decided to print some or plug some on a computer with some digits and then look at it and have it distributed to the way it chooses to distribute. But then at the same time, where's it coming from? What is it backed up with? Why would one institution or group of people be allowed to, navigate through that and allow who has what, who doesn't have anything? And then the idea of, even their organization, if you have to look at it, because I have people say, well, this is how we keep balance and harmony. I said, well, you can't keep balance when you're producing something out of nothing. You're handing it out exclusively by certain elites or groups or whatever it is, and then others don't have accessibility to it. And then at the same time, you're charging interest on something that you have not even created as something tangible. But then each time the money flow increases, you're just creating more debt that can never be paid, because the fact is nobody's ever actually made allocation for interest or changes or fluctuations of prices and so forth. And I say, well, you can't. And then I look at it this way, and especially when people get together and say, well, look at all the stuff that was going on in Europe, all the bankruptcies, and, the whole country is going bankrupt or, is in complete massive debt, including the United States and other countries are all heavily in debt. My question is, well, are you in debt too? That's the first part. But then the second part is, debt to what? What did they give you? They gave you some pieces of paper or some digits on a computer. I mean, the thing could just be vanished overnight. You could throw around, it's not there anymore. Or we could say, debt cleared. It's done, So even when the Europe thing was going on and it was all these economists coming together, how we're going to do this, how are we going to, clear up our debt, we have to do this, stimulate here, stimulate that. And my view to them was, what are you talking about? If you guys all get together, you sit around on a table and say, okay, let's look at it this way. You owe money to this country, and I owe this money to this country, and so forth, and everybody's, going back and forth. Everybody's loaning money to each other, and they're all broke because they loaned their money away or did whatever at one point or another, and they're in so much in debt. If we sat together and just said, okay, we all start off with the same amount of money we did, and the debt's cleared, everything is done, everybody's back on an equal keel. And what did we have to do? Nothing. We just agreed to do so. Done. Mm-hmm. This is the beauty of it, because the stuff is not real. Everything is made up along the way. We can create anything and uncreate anything at any point in time. So we're coming to that realization more and more. Yeah, the first thing that happens when people start to realize certain things, that there are different structures in place and that it may look unfair or may look like it's been, manipulated that way or something of that nature, people will react in anger at first because they feel undone, wrongly done or something of that nature. But when you understand the bigger picture, you've just basically experienced a very limited way of experiencing life, and now we're much more skilled at seeing that, and we're much more skilled to create something totally different and more expansive that we wouldn't have been able to before, and now we can. So in a way, as much as it all, played out one way or another, it still serves us. And guess where we are today? We're much more advanced. So now, with our new consciousness coming in, we're changing it. So the world that we were talking about, or I alluded to, is, a world where everything is accessible for everybody. And we're not going to have this whole idea that we need to go earn or do anything of that nature, or even have the use for money, because everything will be made available and will be made accessible. We have no shortage of food. We have shortage or illusionary shortage of food because of the way we run things and how we consume it and how inefficiently it's done and how it's distributed. So it's there because it's created by the old structure. I mean, and then even when we talk about monetary aspects of it, and when I hear from people, well, there's money restrictions and all that stuff, and I said, listen, if we just make the stuff up, we can make up anything. And I said, look at how much money, how much technology, how much brain power, how much skills are being used to create weaponry to kill one another. I think somebody had said a while back, did a research and had discovered that, what they spend 8 days in the military would feed every single soul on the planet for a year.
Wow.
And we have the capability for technology to make it, but we have, ideas of markets and so forth that restrict so that only a certain amount of food. And then, of course, we get all the nice little other organizations that get involved and now want to own the seeds, want to own all the patents of food, and then, of course, we create these new lovely things we call genetically modified food, not for the betterment of mankind, but it's, again, for control and to also, restrict or limit, or what you call eliminate, the amount of population we have on the planet, but it's not for that. So there's a lot of interesting little games that we're playing that we're discovering, and we're making changes of it. So our reality was completely different. So the monetary and everything else will shift accordingly.
Well, hallelujah.
Absolutely.
I think that I am just so, I know so many of us are, I am a light worker, and a lot of people, a lot of my listeners, that is their chosen dream or profession or what they're focusing on, and the ascension process. And I think we definitely want to come together. I mean, clearly, the money thing, all of the societal structures, and we've talked about this before, down to the education and the health system and the money system, are things to keep people separate, to keep people under the illusion that we are separate beings, that we're not connected, that we're not all one, and then again, religion and education to allow it to make us believe that we're all separate, that we're not a part of God, that we don't have any power to change things, and especially we don't have power to change things with our minds or with our spirit. I mean, I don't know what I want to kind of keep it focused on what we were saying, because I think what you're saying is very interesting, and I'm almost thinking, like, if it's changing now, if the monetary system is changing now, or people are becoming more aware and they're protesting against Monsanto, or they're saying we don't want all this money spent on the military, obviously things are changing. Would you say that these changes are coming about? Of course, there are these source codes that are streaming in at these certain times to help increase our consciousness. But at the same time, would you say that maybe it's like the programs are kind of falling away on a collective?
Absolutely. The thing is, the energies on the planet, the source codes, all the streaming that's going on, the vibration of the planet has increased tremendously in the last several years. And so a lot of the programs are all designed, and the operating system behind it is an old operating system. So as everything is being upgraded right now, this is what we can't hold on to any longer, these old patterns and old operating systems of doing, and this is why it's reflecting on that aspect of it. I mean, for people just to evolve and to awaken, I mean, there has been a lot of stimulation to create that. And, like even if we had to look at some of the frequency changes that have occurred, I mean, we're talking about this planet was retooled about 15,000 so years ago. Our physicalities were designed and to match that, about 15,000 years ago. But, we were at different frequencies, and about 10,000 years ago, I mean, we were at 7 hertz, and then over 5,125 years, we've only went up to actually from 7 to 7.4, and then from there, as of basically from 5,000 years ago till about the end of 1986. I mean, we went from 7.4 to 7.8 hertz. But since 87, from the beginning of 87 until 2012, 2012, we went from 7.8, which ended up at 13 hertz. And right now we're running at about 13.5. The sun is streaming about 28 hertz. The central sun, which the central galactic sun that we aligned with, is streaming at about 210 hertz. So we're being beamed down with very high frequency, and that is stimulating a lot of these old programs which were created to operate in those lower frequencies, no longer to be operable. And this is why everything is being challenged, and this is why everybody's going and feeling changes going on. This is why we're being stimulated to let go of all of the old programs that we had within ourselves and all our belief systems and so forth that reflected that old design. So everything is working forward to make this shift. So money, for example, was created in a very lower, denser consciousness with at a lower frequency. And most of everything, including religions and others, have been all created at a lower frequency. So the upgrade in the frequency is also looking at whatever's there and noticing that it doesn't match, and that's why the changes are going on. And the frequencies are increasing further and further and further as we go along. And so it's going to be very difficult for us to live the old ways when our consciousness is shifting and the way we feel and how we integrate with the planet is shifting. So, this is, we made it in such a way that you can't stay and sit back and do nothing. Somehow you're going to either participate or choose not to participate and go from there.
Oh, wow. It makes a lot of sense to me that, money being made in a denser state would be incompatible as we move into a higher dimension that just doesn't match. Mm-hmm. And I kind of want to shift into the more personal here now, because you did mention that a lot of things are coming up for people. A lot of programs or a lot of triggers are kind of happening for people so that they're being made aware of what no longer fits them, what no longer works for them, and then even for myself or from the community of people that I surround myself with who are very self-aware, very into the expansion of consciousness. We can't always be in this. It'd be nice if we could always be in a state of being where everything is going well, and we can keep our focus on the 5D and be creating that other world in our mind. And at the same time, when these dates come up, I do notice, at least for myself, that sometimes I'm being triggered so much through any relationship that I have, even my relationship to myself. And these things are coming up, and it's a wonderful thing to be able to release. But it's for some people it's very, very hard, and I've noticed that a lot of people are kind of suffering from depression now or increased anxiety, as well as a lot of people are noticing feeling much more joyful and happy and more aware of their light bodies. There's quite a range, of course, depending on, I guess, where people are in their evolution. So I know that you work with people individually as well as in groups. And what have you noticed people kind of coming against? What is the most difficult thing for people to overcome as they're trying to expand their consciousness?
Well, you made a very clear point there. There's a variety of different things that people experience every time these waves come through as things intensify. So, yeah, some people are feeling a little bit more joy, they're feeling a little bit more lighter, but others are feeling much more intense, others are feeling much more huge obstacles coming in their way. Now, again, like you said, it varies on the state of consciousness they're in and, evolutionary cycle at this point in time. So what becomes right now, because of all the changes that are occurring energetically and otherwise, everything is being challenged within ourselves. Because you have to understand, we need to completely shift our human experience. And to shift our human experience, we need to let go of everything that we defined ourselves by. And so we are choosing at this point to come to our natural state, and that natural state has a certain level of consciousness which does not match anything that we've defined ourselves as human beings in regards to all of our cultural belief systems, all our paths, and all the different choices we've made, and even the levels of understanding. Because a lot of the education, a lot of things that are being shared religion-wise, what has been shared through the media, through education, through understandings, have created certain patterns with us which reflect the third-dimensional consciousness, which reflects a physicality-based experience where we see ourselves, I am a physicality, and I operate in these programs, and this is who I am. So all of this is being challenged. So like you were saying, if a lot of people be coming into depressed states, this depressed, giving up, or feeling, that their whole world is falling apart, that seems to be very big for people. But what's really falling apart is the old part of them, the old definitions of them, the old way of referring through their experience. And it's coming up for very powerful reason, and the reason is for them to experience it fully and then to let it go. And when we're talking about letting go, is letting go of that whole belief systems, programs, and so forth that support it, and that whole experience will then have the opportunity to shift within them. So at this point, with all the stuff that's going on, emotions, things that we've adopted and held on. For example, if somebody had a reference point in their mind being, for me to be loved, I have to be this way. For me to be accepted, I need to act this way. For me to feel good about myself, or to, be a representative of part of my, culture, world, or whatever it may be, that, things should be a certain way. Of course, what's happening is those reference points, again, are referring back to the old programs and old way of seeing things, but it's also restrictive. So at this point, as long as we're having that as a reference point, it is being challenged right now. It's being rocked left, right, and center. So, for example, if somebody had an issue as a child growing up, say they had an interaction with a parent, a father figure, for example, just as an example, and they had a very traumatic experience, or at least deemed as a traumatic experience, and for example, and then felt that they were wrong done by the parent, or that they've been abused, or that they weren't given what they felt that they needed as part of their experience, then they may hold certain patterns that reflect that. Maybe trust issues, maybe still holding on grudges, or maybe still holding on to the fact that, I wasn't good enough because I did not appease my dad, or that he abused me because I'm not, loved or not cared for, or anything of that nature. And those programs still exist. And right now, all of that is being challenged as we are stepping forward to it. And it's the only reason it's being challenged is to take that we've attached to and defined ourselves, that served us at that time, in that state of consciousness, in that state of being, that was what was necessary, now is no longer necessary. So we no longer need to have any definition or attachments to it, or use that as a reference point in any way, shape, or form. So guess what? It's going to show up. And even if we had gone through the scenario where, you do affirmations, or you do reverse belief systems, for example, if somebody had a self-conscious issue and saying, well, I'm not self-confident, or I don't love myself, or, I don't like myself, and then, creating affirmations or creating another story to prove yourself otherwise, saying, well, no, I'm lovable, I'm kind, I'm this and that, I'm acceptable, that I'm this and this. All we've done is created another story to the story that already exists, but we never really cleared the original story. We just basically tried to shift the story. But, so guess what? Now, as much as that may have served you at one point in time, in a sense where all of a sudden you're feeling good. I mean, I've had many people at this point that have at one point or another used all those tools, which were good tools for a mediator state of being at that time, to shift themselves, and feel much better about themselves and so forth. But the thing is, you've created a scenario where you need to continue to endorse it. But, their life has changed, and they say, okay, my life is better because of this, this, and this, because now I don't feel that way. Or maybe I've even gone through the process of forgiving a parent, for what they've done, and saying, well, you were wrong, but I forgive you anyways, and, and all that stuff. But now what's happening is many of those experiences that they had felt, that they had addressed and put aside, is coming to the surface now. Because what's happening is the original story, the original belief that really never got cleared, has remained there. And even though we created a new superimposed belief on top of it, say, for example, there was a belief adopted that I'm not worthy enough, lovable enough, or good enough, and now we created all these affirmation stories and belief systems, and we created additional stories on top of it. We're saying I'm good enough, I'm better, I'm good, I'm capable, and I can do this, I can do that. That story on top of the other story right now doesn't neutralize it. In actual fact, the old story, the old belief system is coming up to the surface only for one reason. And that is, well, it's actually two reasons. The first reason is to learn from it. And what was the learning from it? That, taking those experiences created an illusionary limitation to really discover the truth, which is basically none of that is actually real. So that we actually go back to our own essence of reference point. So, and then the other part of it is that it's coming there to learn that, but also to clear it, so that it's no longer there. So what people are experiencing now in a huge amount is all of their old stuff coming up. But it doesn't even stop there, Claudia. It goes even further, because what's happening is that we've all had multitudes of past lives. And we don't always complete things in past lives. We have certain lessons in past lives. We have certain experiences. And some people talk about it as karma, but that's not the case. They may not have completed a lesson. They never completed a clarification or clearing of that past life where they said, okay, learned it, move on, let it go, and move on. So it's unfinished business. It's a sort of, unfinished lesson that the soul carries, because the soul carries memories of each and every life incarnation that we've had, and the subconscious mind carries all the experiences we had from the moment we're born till the present moment, whenever that is. And of course there's an equal imprint within the soul. So now even the stuff from past lives are coming up, and it's not coming up so that we have to always go back. That's how it used to be, go back to their past lives. Now everything's coming to the surface so that we can experience it in real time, meaning right now. We can experience it, get the lesson from it, and learn it. So a lot of times people are coming up with stuff that they never realize, where did this come from? I don't remember ever, having a negative experience or a perception that I've taken on that reflects this. But that's from a past life, and saying, because the energy is so conducive now, and that everything is supporting for so much to be done in one swoop, that it's coming up to the surface now. So all of this, the stuff is coming up so that we can experience it, learn from it, and let it go. And that's the whole process that's going on. And as you let go, as you complete all of this, your consciousness continues to expand, your energy continues to increase, and your world starts to look completely different and free. So even when we're going back to all of that, when we're doing this clearing stuff, we have to understand one of the biggest obstacles that we have is that when we're looking at it, we're going in with the same mindset that it was created in. For example, if somebody says, well, I'm unworthy, it's not the whole idea of saying that I'm worthy. It's to realize the truth. There is no such thing. There is no such thing as worthy and unworthy. The fact that you're on this planet, you are full potentiality at its best, having an experience that is custom designed, that you have selected and created within yourself. You are source itself. You are the creator and its own creation, in its own existence, that is experiencing itself in one of the multitudes of forms, in a physical form, right now, in what we call, whatever we called it, Claudia, whoever else, in a physical human form. There is no such thing as worthy and unworthy. We are everything that is. So that collapses all of that. The other aspect of it is if we felt that we've done wrong, somebody's done wrong to us, for example, like I was saying, a parent may have been abusive or reacted or did something, and we have an issue with that particular person. The greater understanding is not that, okay, Dad did me wrong and I'm a bigger person and I forgive them. There's nothing to forgive. First of all, no one does anything wrong to anyone. We're just playing roles with one another. We're just experiencing different levels of experiences with one another. Where each one of us is assisting each other accordingly, and it is all in design. So you can't say that somebody did anything wrong that you need to forgive. The forgive really means forget, but it's not only just forget. It's not that simple. It's about also learning what you had to learn from that, and then let it go. And it's not about forgetting it. It's just releasing it completely. It's like a completed. It's not like I have work to do. I'm going to forget that I have work to do and put it aside, and I'm just going to keep trying to forget about it. It's about going in, doing the work, and then the work is done. Complete. There's one called completion, the other one is forget. So it's about completing. So once you've completed, you don't even have to go into the whole modality that I need to forget. And this forgiving thing, no one does anything wrong. So when you truly understand that each and every soul that you play with, mom, dad, whoever else, or anyone in your life that may have played a darker, denser role, or may have been, made your life a little bit more challenging, they only played the role that you asked them to play. That's a big pill to swallow, but it is the truth. Mm-hmm. Each and every soul is fully in charge of their experience. Nothing can be done to you. It's not possible. As the creator essence, you co-create, you co-agree for yourself to have a certain experience for another opportunity to learn, grow, and expand, and nothing more. When you see that, when you have this parent that may have played a specific role that may have been dense and painful, the truth is you can actually go up to them and say, thank you for playing that fantastic role, so realistic that I feel that I have to give you an award for it, because in actual fact you helped me make a huge step or a huge realization or to create a completely different consciousness for myself. And it's vice versa, because the roles are played back and forth. When you realize that, guess what? You collapse a tremendous amount of old 3D world of what we've created as our illusion, because everything is made up. We are full potentiality beings, and realizing what serves doesn't serve, we are now observing it. It's not about what's wrong, right, good, or bad, because there's no such thing. Everything is an experience, but we're now looking at what we have learned from it, what we've utilized, and what no longer serves, we release it. That's it. It's a matter of that. We're the creator that creates a certain experience. We experience it, we learn from it, we expand from it, and then we uncreate it. Goodbye. Mm-hmm. It's not even working in the laws of attraction, all that. That plays a very small role, and it's not even accurate. I mean, the fact is, we are full potential creators. And sometimes people say, well, I'm not a good manifestor, I'm not a good creator. And I always remind them, no, you're absolutely an amazing creator. Look at your world. Look at your reality right now. He says, oh, my reality is horrible. It's this and that. That's poor manifestation. No, you manifested exactly what you needed to manifest to create a shift within yourself. That is the most important part. Your soul's not concerned about what you do and don't do on the planet. This is the stage. This is the costume is your physicality, and your mind is the computer that you utilize to play with all of this. And you're here to play, to learn, to experience, and that's all you're here to do. But whatever you use as the role or the stage or anything of that nature, it's just part and parcel of expanding yourself and nothing more. So when we're looking at these changes within ourselves, when you're coming in with that level of consciousness, when you're really looking at things the way it is, it becomes easier and easier to make shifts within yourself. And it's not about, creating the opposite polarity, because we're out of the polarity world. We're out of the linear timeline. We're out of, the karmic grid and all that stuff that we've played in the past. And none of that exists anymore. We've cleared all of that stuff. We're here completely to advance our experience so that we matches more our natural state, and is in alignment with the expansion that's happening in the universe, basically in the universe and all the universes, and basically in our galaxy and our own planet. So when we're doing the clearing, we look at it in that perspective, and we look at it in a much more powerful way. So when I do work with people on a collective, we first of all start dissolving all the different stories that we've taken on, and look at that, and then activating our true essence within ourselves. So that's what we do on a collective basis. On an individual basis, which I've used to do a lot more of, we go into the software program. We start looking at all their stories, and we, go and see what was there for us at that time. We play with whatever it needs to be played with, and then erase it. And what we're doing is removing what no longer serves and bringing that higher consciousness in place. And what happens, there's a complete shift that occurs. Now, that doesn't mean you have to go through it. I mean, we're all going through it one way or another. All the tools that are being provided is just to speed things up and to make it a little bit more efficient in the case. And that's why we provide the tools, and that's why I do all the time to give people more tools to advance a lot quicker, so they don't have to go through the challenges for such a long period of time. We're trying to make things simple as possible. So realistically, we're all brother, sister souls. We're all equals. We're just at different levels of consciousness, and we're at different levels of experiences, and we're sharing with one another to advance each other. And as we advance each other, we're advancing ourselves. And that's all we're doing.
Some of what you were saying, actually, our connection faded out for a little while. So I did miss some of what you said.
Okay.
Like a minute and a half. I don't know, you totally faded out.
All right. Well, I do have the recording for it, so we would probably have that all intact because it's direct off my mic. But in a sense, at this point, if we're looking at that part I was talking about, even when we're doing the clearing aspect of it, even on a personal basis, one-to-one, that when we're going into it, we're basically looking at all the different stories. We're looking at all the different, and we're not, creating another opposite story of it. We actually go right to the basis of it, find out exactly what we needed to learn from it, and then bring that higher consciousness in, and then make the changes on that. So, most of everything is, the processes that we're doing, even on a collective basis that we have provided, is again to assist humanity to accelerate the shifting, so we don't have to all do it the hard way. All of us have specific gifts. All of us have different experiences, and by us sharing with one another, by us creating the opportunity to facilitate each other, then we can do it a lot more efficiently and quickly. No one's better than anybody else. We're all at different levels of consciousness, and we're all at different levels of experiences. But as we assist each other and we move forward together, we're assisting ourselves because we're all interconnected. I mean, our advancement is based on ourselves working together. And, it's not just I make one part of me get to a certain level of consciousness. Each one of us on the planet here is another part of us. So as we do it much more on a collective scale, we advance tremendously. And this is why the souls that are on other planets, that are our brother sister souls that are connected in our galaxy and universe, are so interested in working together, and that's why we do work together. And this is why there's a lot of assistance coming on, and we won't even go into that unless we want to cover it at another time. But there's a lot of that assistance coming on to help us because we see it for the truth. We're all one.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's just beautiful. And listening to you talk about that, and these, I know we don't have time to really get into our benevolent brother and sister, the star brother and sisters, or the people from other worlds that are helping us. But clearly, I don't know, there is something to that information that gives me personally, or gives my soul like a sense of relief when I think that we're not alone. It's not just us human beings on the earth here that are going through all this change, or that we have help from other people or from other beings. It's hard sometimes when you're in that 3D mindset to conceptualize of us all being one, and yet it's really so clear when you know when you connect with the heart. That's where it all comes to. You know, we're all love, and we're all made of from the one. And you know, hearing this information just makes me feel so much more hopeful and excited about where we're headed. And it also makes all of these triggers and this coming up of the old core issues and the programs a little easier to take. Because I tell you, Franco, sometimes it's really hard. You know, I have my days where I'm just so, like, floored by the energy, or I'll be going through something, and I think that this is why, you know, somebody like me or other people would love to have sessions with you, because it can seem overwhelming when you're in the midst of a feeling that's coming up, you're triggered emotionally, and maybe you'll be in a sense of overwhelm or fear or shame or, you know, loss. It's not always easy when you're on your own to process it, to understand it, and to transcend.
Yeah.
I don't know what you would suggest to people on an individual level. I mean, I've listened to your clearings and you know, in group settings and or you know, over the internet, and it's been tremendously helpful. But what would you suggest to our listeners, you know, for their own purposes, how they can be able to process these feelings as they're coming up and let them go? How best could they try to do that on their own, if that's possible?
Sure. The first thing that we need to acknowledge, and it makes it a lot easier right off the bat, the stuff that's coming up for us is all highly beneficial for us. It's to embrace the changes. So, you know, when we're having these emotions or triggers coming up, it's not to look at it, oh my God, I have more, you know, all this stuff coming up and I feel bad and all that. And it's more really embracing it, because the more you have coming up, the more it is a sign that you are active in making changes. At the soul level, you've chosen to move forward. And you're just creating newer and newer opportunities for you to have those scenarios come up so that you can once and for all clear it out. So that's the first step, is to really see this as something good, and not, you know, judge it as something horrible. You know, I'm having a meltdown. Great. You know, I've had people call me at times, you know, and they're going through very difficult times, and I go, fantastic. And, you know, first of all, it shocks them and say, what do you mean fantastic? My life is falling apart. And I said, no, your life is unfolding and giving you the opportunity to look at all the things that do not serve you any longer. The falling apart is part of the reconstruction, and it is now will reconstruct in a way that's far superior than anything that you've experienced. And once you've gone through it, and as many people have seen, and you've seen in your own personal experiences, that once you've gone through that process, it's like, wow, you know, this is great. Look at where I am today, and also the fact that life is completely different. So that's the first and foremost, is to embrace these beautiful, powerful times that are coming in. It's not to be afraid of it. It's not to, you know, hold our breath and say, oh my God, I got to endure it. It's not about enduring. It's just going right into it and experience it, and that's part of the process. The other part of the process is most of these activations have emotions involved. And emotions, as beautiful as they are, as powerful as they are, as natural as they are for the human experience, which makes us quite a bit much more advanced in certain experiential aspects of it, can also at times become very powerful in the sense of keeping us stuck, because of the fact that we have created a lot of judgment about emotions, and also given a lot of power to emotions. The first judgment is that emotions are horrible things. So when we react and respond, you know, we have judgments of certain emotions are good. The emotions of love is good. The emotions of anger, hatred, and so forth is terrible. And of course, what happens, we do tend to create a lot of negative emotions, especially when we're playing out with an old program under an older consciousness. So we're going to have an emotion. So somebody coming up with the emotion of anger, per se, of course, the first judgment is anger is horrible. This is not something that we should be experiencing. That first part. Then the second part, we have a lot of attachments to it in the sense is that we have a lot of stories attached to why we're angry or why we should be angry because, of a lot of other stories and judgments wrapped up of it. But, again, with the emotions, is the next part of it after you embraced it is to address the emotions first. So if you have certain emotions that come up, for example, the anger, then the key here is to once and for all, and I say that very loosely, but let's say for the one time, to really experience the emotional aspect fully. So if you have anger, it's not about suppressing the anger, and it's not about lashing out the anger, because those are the two most popular ways to experience it. Somebody gets triggered with anger and they don't want to express it because of the environment's not conducive, or they're still holding up a certain facade where they don't want to be seen a certain way. Of course, what are they going to do? And especially if they've been brought up to judge the emotion of anger or any emotion, then of course they're going to do everything possible to suppress it, and they're going to hold that in within ourselves. So whenever the anger is triggered, we take this, first of all, we don't hold the anger. We hold only the memory of the anger. But every time it's triggered, we actually take raw, pure potential energy and create it into what we call the expression or experience of anger. So we create this powerful energetic surge that comes through your body, which we call anger. Now, of course, in that anger state, we react and respond a very different way. So if we take that raw energy, like that volcano that's coming, erupting, and we now suppress it, we plug it up and we hold it back into its place, what happens, it will create a breaking down or unsettling of, or what we can call throwing things out of balance. This is how we create blockages within our body, energetic blocks. This is how we create, a deterioration to some of our physicality, because we throw our hormonal balance out of whack. We create a lot of different things through suppressing of anger. So that becomes one expression that's not conducive for us. I mean, it has been and has served us, but now it's not conducive. The other response mechanism is to react and lash out. So I'm sure you've seen people that are angry and they're yelling and screaming and they're doing all types of things and blaming everybody and whatever else. And that, or if you go to a therapist, and some of the older mentalities of therapists is that you need to release the anger. And the way they recommend to release it is to, kick pillows, take it out, and vent it out in a sense. There's two things that happen with that. First of all, you create a pattern. You create a pattern saying every time I get angry that I react this way. So you're saying I'm going to fuel myself up and then release it, like the volcano saying I'm going to be stimulated. And every time I'm going to just belch out all this lava and so forth. So I'm going to belch out all this negative energy, all this energy or emotion of anger, and I'm going to release it to everybody. And then, of course, we can create judgments about it, because a lot of people do that, not to self-direct it. They get angry and they blame other people. So we create those patterns, but those patterns never free us. We're still in the same state. We never, by suppressing it or expressing it, we're not really moving or breaking the pattern whatsoever. So we're basically still there. The other option, which is the way I recommend, is to, when, say, for example, anger comes up, is to allow it to come through, meaning that you will experience it to the fullest. So you're not repressing it and you're not releasing it. You are sitting in the pool of that anger. You are feeling it to the fullest dimension. You're going to let all its sensation to be experienced and felt throughout your whole physicality. You're going to be in its beautiful soup, its energy completely. And you're going to do everything possible to stimulate it and to increase it as much as possible if you can. And that is by, fueling it with other stories, or just, rehashing the same story over and over again, so that the anger reaches a maximum point, the emotion of anger. And you're going to feel it and hold it there as long as you possibly can. And what happens is you'll notice that you cannot hold it, because eventually it starts to fade. The fizz, the energy behind it starts to fade. Even if you create more stories, you will not be able to keep it in the same state. It will diminish. It can be renewed at a later date, but it will diminish. And when it becomes small enough, you can envision yourself with great love, just taking that energy, whatever way it felt in your body, and just envision it in your eyes closed and seeing that energy, that whole mass coming out of your body. It could be something black, it can be anything, whatever presents in you, or even just the feeling of it. And you just see yourself letting go of that anger, letting go of that whole experience, and kind of sending it off, like you're sending it off to the sun, where it goes back to its initial design, which was basically pure light, pure potentiality, because everything is just pure light, pure potentiality with consciousness, and we create it into form. So you take all that reactive energetic form, and you're releasing it. Then what you've done is you've given yourself permission to experience a very fundamental emotion fully. And once you've done that, you've taken the emotional charge out of it. Now you can go in and look at the story that triggered the emotions. Because the emotion is only the reactive part. It is only the indicator light. It is not the truth behind of what it is. Some people are not angry. People react using that emotion of anger based on stories, based on perceptions, based on something they feel is not matching what they want. So, in a sense, when you let the emotions feel out completely, you allow it to take its natural form, and you're experiencing. Now, that does not mean every time that you have a reaction of the emotion of anger that you need to go through that whole process. Now, if you feel that you had not reached a maximum state, and there is another opportunity at a later date to reach a maximum state, then yes, okay. But once you felt it once, you've gone through it, you've given yourself permission, you know what it's like, you've now disempowered it. Now, the thing is, for anger to be there, there's a story. Now we need to look at the story. So you ask yourself, why am I angry? And you will get an answer. And you have to dig as much as you can. Why am I angry? Well, because people take advantage of me, or something of that nature. And then you ask yourself, why do I feel that people take advantage of me? And you keep digging further into that. Why do I see that people take advantage of me? When did I believe the first time that people can take advantage of me or have taken advantage of me? And you're going to look at the story that came up. Okay, as a child, I was never allowed the opportunity to, be free or to make my own choices. People always use me or took advantage of me or whatever it is. So you're going to go back to that story and look at it and say, okay, what did I believe about it? That somebody else had power over me? So in that aspect of it, what you're going to look at, you're going to look at the story behind it, because at that time the story was absorbed or taken on as a reality or as a belief system because it served at that time. However, now we're at a different state, and it no longer is required. So at this point, you need to look at the truth, saying, well, okay, somebody had power over me. I never had a free choice or anything of that nature. And you ask yourself, is that true? Does anybody have any power over me? And of course, if you're asking your higher aspect of yourself, it's just basically going to say no. The truth is, no one has power over you. So what you're going to do, when you've discovered the various stories, you can go in and say, okay, I release all concepts, all belief systems, all perceptions that in some way, somehow, someone has power over me, that other people can take advantage of me, that I really have no control of my life, or that I cannot navigate my way through my experience each moment. I release all concepts and all belief systems that in some way, somehow, that someone has more power than I do over myself, that someone can actually dictate my life over myself. I release all concepts and all belief systems that in some way I need to see myself as a victim, that I need to see myself disempowered. I release all concepts and all belief systems that in one way or another, that I am not, the creator of my experience. So you just say, I take all these concepts, all these beliefs, and all these perceptions, I now command it, I bind it, I purge it, and I release it to the sun to restore it back to pure light, pure potentiality. Now, at this point, you're not installing a contradictory one or the other side of the polarity. Now you installed the truth. You install, I understand fully from this moment on, the truth is that I am fully in charge of everything and anything I create. Anything that is played out with any role with anyone is co-created for the highest advancement and opportunity for myself to move forward. No one has power over me. I have power over myself, as everyone else has power over each other. We are all here to play together, and we are here to assist each other. Any role, stories, or belief systems that I've taken on, I understand has served, no longer serves now, no longer need to play with any of this. I fully understand that my truth is that from this moment on, I create each and every reality in a more conscious state, and I've always created my reality, and no one has had the power to create anything opposite than the reality that I was open and choosing to create within myself. I take all these statements, all these acknowledgments, all the encodements, and all the energetic fields that support it, including tonalities and spectrums of light. I install it in all levels of consciousness So in all levels of consciousness, every cell in my body, in all levels of my subconscious mind, conscious mind, ego mind, soul, genetic code, and DNA. As my new truth, my new reality, my new foundation, new guidance point. Anything that is still opposite, opposing in any way, shape, or form, I now command, bind, purge, and release to the sun to restore back to pure light, pure potentiality. And you go through all the different stories, and you don't have to do this in all one sitting. You're going to do it along the way. But after you've done that part, you ask yourself, is there any other reason why I would get angry? And even if you have to go back to a past experience, say somebody cut you off on the road, you envision in your mind seeing somebody cut you off on the road and see if there's a reaction. And if there's still a reaction, you ask yourself, okay, why am I reacting? What other story do I believe? And you keep until you find them all. Once you find them all and cleared them all, then you'll notice that the response mechanism is no longer feeling disempowered, feeling that somebody's manipulating or has power over you, and you're not going to be angry any longer. You're not going to be expressing or experiencing anger triggers. You're going to basically be flowing with things along the way. And this takes all parts of it, including anything that creates depression, anything at all, because there's all stories. I mean, depression is a huge one because it's contradictory stories that we have within ourselves. So you ask yourself, why am I feeling depressed? Why am I feeling this way? And you keep asking and until you get to the bottom of it. We do, a lot of the clearings do have a lot of that available. So if somebody goes on the sites, they can get that. I actually did a video that explains a little bit more in depth. It's on YouTube too, which we can add to the link if we want.
Yeah, definitely.
Which goes through the process but also explains it a little bit clearer. These are some of the tools. It doesn't mean that you have to do them all that way, because many people can clear by just experiencing and just asking themselves also at the same time, is there any truth to what I'm experiencing at this point? That still carries any value at this point. So as you go along, and we have a lot of help right now. The thing is, energetically, we are being supported. See, to make it clear, Claudia, when I was doing clearings, I've been doing clearings for 35 years. And, of course, it's changed the form of it, and along the way it has, advanced because humanity and the energies have advanced. Up to, last year, before we actually went through that shift that happened on the 21st, even prior to that, what was occurring is that whenever we were doing a clearing, say we had something from a past life, because this is the same thing, as I was saying earlier, past lives are coming up to the surface. We also have lineages that we've taken on, meaning certain characteristics and belief systems that we've taken on from the family dynamics, stuff that we have taken on through our path. So what was before, we'd have to go through all the different layers. First, we have to take care of the present stuff, and then if we saw it was linked to a past life, we have to actually go back and do a life regression, which I have done thousands of life regressions, but we'd have to go back into life regressions and look at the life at that time and go in and do the same thing, actually shift the consciousness, look at how we felt then, and then we would clear the stories that fueled that experience and then create a higher consciousness. And then when they were doing the life regression, what they would see is that, say, for example, somebody was just being tortured, just to give you an example, if we have a few more minutes, seeing themselves being tortured in a past life, and then to create this whole idea that they didn't have any power, that others had power over them, they had no freedom of choice or anything of that nature. we would go back in and clear all of that. The same way I did it, I release all concepts and all belief systems that someone has power over me, that I need to follow certain rules, that other people have authority over me, that I need to play the victim, that I need to be disadvantaged, and all of that. We clear all those stories up. We do the same process. I command, bind, purge, and release it all to the sun. And then my new understanding is I'm completely free to decide and desire or design any of my experiences I choose. I understand that I'm not a victim, and victim doesn't even exist. I understand fully and completely that I'm fully in charge of any choices I make and in any unfoldments. And at this point in time, I no longer see myself as disadvantaged or any of the following, and go through that whole process of a higher consciousness. You install that fully. And then, while you're there in that life regression state, you go back and experience the same event. Say you were being tortured. You're still in that state, and you see how it plays out differently. And you'll see that the whole scene starts to change. Because all we did is we changed the consciousness. We took the value out of there, which was, the understanding that you weren't certain roles. And how many people have seen, oh my gosh, I'm not being tortured anymore. I'm not even here anymore. Or I don't have any of this. So they've seen all of that change for them. And then we install that. Because anything that we're accessing from past lives is in the soul. Now, what's happening now, we actually clear it. When we're doing the clearing, we're doing it real time. So it actually collapses already the stuff from the soul. Because what we do is we link the subconscious to the soul. At the same time, of course, the subconscious, but we also link the conscious mind, the DNA, and genetic code all together. So when you're doing the adjustments, it's done on all levels at the same time. So it's a lot more efficient. But then the energies that are helping us right now, for us to hold these stories, are being challenged so that we can actually clear it, and it becomes much more efficient. It's much more efficient now. It doesn't mean that we all have to go through the whole tedious process, but the process is one tool, one of many tools, but it's a very efficient tool because I've looked at many other different tools to see which one works best. And for the frequency that we're working at this time, this is a very powerful tool to use it so that we can actually take steps further and faster. And the thing here, Claudia, it's not about, a lot of people say, well, I don't like what's happening in my life, I want to change it. It's not about making a change because you don't like it. It's about getting what you needed to get out of that experience and then be done with it and move out. So if somebody's saying, well, I'm having all these problems, we're not concerned about the problems because those are the indicators that there's some work to be done. We're going to go look at what those things are shining a light on so that we can address what needs to be addressed, because the rest of it changes on its own. Somebody has cancer, for example, and you can go through all types of treatments. You can go conventional, but you can go alternative, which is a much more powerful and health holistic way of doing it. But the key is to really understand that the cancer was triggered for various reasons, and that one of them is a wake up call. Second of all, it could be the wake up call that could lead us into our vehicle out to leave the physicality. So we need to go address what the cancer is about. It's not about going in to heal the cancer. It's about going in addressing what the cancer activated, or what the end of the cancer is actually trying to show us. And guess what? Then whatever modality we use to accelerate the process of shifting from cancer to non-cancer will work much more beneficial, because I've seen people that go through all types of treatment, holistic and otherwise, that is very powerful tools, but have not, made that much of an improvement, or made some improvement and then created something different, because really the core essence of why it was there in the first place was never addressed. And that's why this is coming up right now, so that we do address it. So it's never really going after the symptom or the indicator that something needs to be done. It's actually going in and looking at what needs to be done. And that's where we're at right now. So those are some of the tools that are beneficial at this point in time. And we're in amazing times, because we're doing this so powerfully, so effective at this time. And, as much as the world looks like it's falling apart at the seams, in actual fact, it is deconstructing, so that completely something new is being created. And how we feel personally that we're falling apart, it's actually just taking down all the rigid aspects of ourselves that no longer serve, so we can create a new state. And our new state is fluidity. Our new state is moment-by-moment creation. And I know we don't have the time to play with all of that, but I'm sure we'll have another opportunity to do so.
Well, you do a brilliant job of moving from subject to subject and actually answering the questions that I've written down for you, but didn't. Yeah, I guess that you're pretty psychic. That I love the way I have the question for you, and then you answer it before I even get to ask you. So you've actually covered a lot of what I wanted to discuss. So this is great. The way you brought it back around to how we can use the whole process of the clearings. I've listened to your clearings so many times. So as you repeated those those sentences over again for the clearing, it becomes much more. Usually when I'm doing them, I'm in a kind of a relaxed state as I'm listening to you talk. So sometimes I'm falling asleep. I know it still affects me, but it is really good to hear you in a very lucid and awake state, so that I can integrate those pieces into my own toolkit. Just because I've listened to your clearing so many times, I'm also wondering, and I know we don't have that much time left, but I just wanted to ask if we have done a lot of the clearings, with you through Masterpiece Life, if we've listened to them over and over again, would you say that those of us who have used that tool so many times, that we actually will have more things coming up at a faster rate? Or
if you have a lot more to do, yes, it will speed up the process for sure. More things will come up, and you can address them a lot more efficiently and quickly along the way. We're not a bottomless pit, that's for sure. It may seem that way for some people. They're going through it and saying, "Oh, I've done all this work," and and the thing is too, I also hear from people say, "Well, I've been doing this for 10 years, 20 years, 5 years, whatever it is, and I seem to never run out." Well, a lot of times it wasn't really addressed fully, and many other times it was addressed, and only part of it was addressed because of the fact that we were in a different state of consciousness or energy and wasn't really ready to let all of it go. We have to understand everything has been created for a purpose, so that maybe all the things that we needed to get out of it was not done with. So it's not that we're a bottomless pit that's going through. Right now, everything is coming to the surface, and even things that we didn't finish before is coming to the surface. So, it's really the mandate now, really at the soul level and as a collective, is to really shed the 3D aspects of our human existence. And when I do share what I share, I'm not sharing another concept. I'm not sharing another belief system. I'm sharing with you actual source consciousness. Yes, it is slightly designed to be much more understandable in the human context. Mm-hmm. But I'm not here to create, collapse one story to create a new story. We're basically collapsing all story and creating it from a source pure perspective of creating something of absolute truth, which we all have within ourselves, And that's why a lot of people say, well, I resonate with it and so forth. We're just basically activating what's truly in you. Mm-hmm. And, so it becomes more usable again. Because a lot of times, when we're playing something opposite for so long, it becomes no longer natural, in a sense, to access that consciousness. It becomes a little bit more evasive and difficult to access it. But as we are having these conversations, as we do some of the stuff that we are doing together and we share, we're stimulating that part of them so that they can actually go into that truer state. Because our human experience that we have is not our natural state. And we have agreed to have this unnatural, what we can call inorganic human experience, inorganic planetary experience. But now we're, generating, re-stimulating back into our organic state, where we are in our natural state of creator essence in a physical form. And to really, we are not using our physicality to the fullest potential by far. We have such a marvelous physicality and mind. We're only using a small facet of it. And yes, we may have served to bring it to this point here, but right now we're choosing to really use our capability. We have phenomenal capabilities, phenomenal ways of experiencing ourselves. We're a marvel with many, many brother-sister beings on other planets. this planet is so exciting to be on, so polarized, and now it's actually going through complete transformation in such a degree that it's not being experienced on other planets in the same way. Other planets, all planets are going through upgrades, but none of it is experiencing it in the scale that we are here. You know, we've seen that how our population from World War II, from 2 billion people, has gone up to 7.1518 or something like that billion people now. You know, look at it and say, well, such a short span of time, we've more than tripled our population. This is the first and foremost time that many souls have been waiting, and it's like a big rush to get here, because to catch this wave. This is like a phenomenal wave of change. And as much as we have opportunities on other planets, this planet is the most exciting, the most vibrant, the most polarized shift that there ever has been. So here we are. I mean, we're here because we wanted to be here, and we want to catch the wave as much as possible. We may not be able to go through the whole ride and have a complete, third, fourth, and fifth dimensional consciousness shift totally within ourselves. But no matter what we gain, what we are capable of doing here, even if we're here just to assist, we're making phenomenal steps forward. And this is the reason. So, as much as some people say, well, I don't belong here and so forth, well, where do we belong? We're Source itself. We belong in that essence, but we never left that essence. We're just projecting this experience. We're here only for the various reasons that we decided to be here to experience it to the fullest. And here we are.
Right. Exactly. I know there are a lot of people who feel that they're like coming from other places to incarnate here, and they often will say, I feel like I don't belong here. But to me that sounds like it's a bit of a resistance, because like you said, here you are. Here you are right now. And clearly, I think so many of us, at least so many of us who are drawn to this kind of work, feel that our life purpose is to assist and to help others, and to spread, to increase consciousness and help heal people. So, just listening to you and being kind of exposed to your energy, it just really brings me up. And I've always felt that way listening to your lectures and your information, that it's always given me a great sense of like just lifting me up above the fray and allowing me to have a sense of everything's fine, everything's working out just as it's supposed to for the best of all involved. And so thank you so much for that. Before we close today, though, I did want to just briefly ask you to explain to people what you have set out in the future for dates, for talks that you're going to be giving. I know that you're going to be going to Europe and Brussels and Italy. Is that correct?
Yes. So the most current things coming up right now on the 12th of September, I do have a talk here in Toronto. It has a very specific subject, which will be available on my website, and also we can promote that. On the 14th, we have, with Masterpiece Life, a full-day event that's coming up. And that will be, we haven't specified the exact topics of that. It's going to be very current to what is the highest of interest for humanity now. And the reason we're doing it online fully, it's a full day event or close to a full day event, that so that we don't restrict access. Most of the events that we're doing with Masterpiece Life is always live streamed one way or another to involve others, even though we have an audience where for the people, because a lot of them are done in Toronto. Mm-hmm. So those are the urgent ones. Then there is on the 29th and 30th, we're doing it in Florence, Italy. There's a 2-day workshop that's coming up. And from there is still plans that are unfolding for Belgium, Denmark, but there's also on, I have to check the dates again, 19th and 20th, I think, of October, which will be Norway, and that will also be made available with that information. We're still trying to put together some other areas which still not coming together so well yet, so that's to be determined. And then we have Western Canada in the Vancouver area that we're planning for the November time. But we will have a lot of other online stuff. So if people register on my website, you will get all the notifications of all the different events and different places that will be held. I know there's much more international stuff coming up soon, specifically in the new year. Things are ramping up. Things are really speeding up. I do have a project in mind at this point that has been on the back shelf for a couple of years now, and that is a book. So I'm going to, even though we have a half a book put together and it is available on free PDF, it is of several years back, but the new one will be covering a little bit more extensively what's happening on the planet, how we're shifting, how to navigate through it. It will be covering the true essence of who we are and how we can become part of it, and then also creating all the sharing the different realities that we have full potentiality to step into. We're a world where it's completely conducive, so people can do what they love to do, and and really be themselves and spend no time in survival, because none of that exists. That has all been constructed and created. So those are some of the things that are coming up. There's a lot of exciting things as we go along. We're trying to, I shouldn't say trying, but at this point there's also things kind of taking form for a potential center that will come about that will create opportunities to bring a lot of souls that are in a state where they can share and assist others to work in one place, but then it will be also transmitted internationally, so that we'll be using radio stations, or in this case probably internet radio and also internet TV, unless we can get the mainstream to shift, which will happen as we go along, but that will become available as along the way. We're still in the works. That won't be about until the first quarter of the year of next year. But and we have a lot of things are unfolding. Each day is something more exciting coming up. And we're in a beautiful ride. Let's enjoy it, embrace it, and let's play for it. And I know it's difficult sometimes when we're on our own. And this is why we have so many resources available. I'm not saying I'm the only one. I offer most of my resources absolutely free. It's available and accessible online, and it's accessible, in different formats to create that connection. Especially when we're doing the processes online, you can all contribute, be part of it, and have the changes happen within yourself, but at the same time feel part of that community. That you're not alone. This is why we bring people together, to say we're not here alone. We're here together. This is the beauty of this time right now, is that what we're shifting in is, first and foremost, is a oneness consciousness. That's my purpose here, to stimulate oneness. We are all one. We're working together. There is no such thing as isolation. There is no such thing as us being separate from another. We have always been connected, but we've been more unconsciously connected, because the fact is we've always felt at a conscious level that we were, disconnected. And then guess what? When we're disconnected, guess what comes in? Fear, struggle, survival. All of these are all part of separation. When you're connected as one, those don't even come into your consciousness whatsoever, because we're all in it together and we're all supporting one another. Very different state.
Oh, that's really beautiful. And I know that especially lately, wasn't it on the 28th of July that was, or the 29th, that was the oneness consciousness that was really coming in to the planet? I'm not sure if that's correct, but that's what I understood was happening with the Grand Trine.
Yes, that was the first part. And the one that we just had a few days ago, which was on the Sunday the 25th, that was to even stimulate it more, but also to stimulate peace and harmony with one another. So that portal opening, and that was the first part of it, is bringing peace to yourself, because a lot of us don't have peace within ourselves because we're fighting ourselves. We're fighting against a higher consciousness with our own ego mind. And we have a lot of judgment of ourselves. So a lot of times we talk about peace, we want peace, but then we're not in peace ourselves. And I'm not talking about reflecting to the outside world. I'm talking about inner peace. And so that was one of the key factors, was to stimulate inner peace, but then going into a oneness peace, where we see ourselves as one, and stimulating and reactivating our natural state. Because our natural state is pure peace. Our natural state is pure neutrality. Our natural state is pure unconditional love. And and these were all part and parcel. So that was on the 25th. We had the other one, which was on the 29th of July.
Yeah.
That was the first one. But the 25th is even much more powerful and more profound for everyone. So there is, and even though right now, there's a lot of talk, a lot about stimulation, trying to get wars started in Iran and other places in the world, that these are, the energies will not support it, the people will not support it. So even if it even starts to go in that direction, it will not last, or it will not take off completely. It's still just pushing the old aspects of fear within people. But ultimately, if we all said no to anything that exists that we are experiencing at this point, it's dissolved instantly. No one has power over anyone else. So the fact is, we are choosing not to play the game any longer. It's done. It's gone. It doesn't matter who's on whatever level. Authority does not exist. There's no hierarchy. The hierarchy is a construct that was made. There's no hierarchy even at when we're going back to all the different levels of source. Even from prime creator down to all the sub-creators along the way, there is no authority. We're just we're all equal. We're all source itself, having different experiences, different states of consciousness. And what we choose to do as a collective is what we project and experience. And that's it. No one can dictate anything. So things can change very quickly, and that's what we're doing right now.
Well, it is a very exciting time.
Mm-hmm.
And like I was saying, just being reminded that these codes are coming in, and what they are about. And like you said, this latest one being the oneness and peace. Even though we might be individually or even collectively experiencing pain or sadness or anger, a couple of days after those shifts, it doesn't mean that we're not still getting the good stuff that's coming to us, like that we're not still getting the infusion of the peace and the oneness. I mean, I guess that just makes me feel much more hopeful that I'm still on track, I'm still moving forward, even with those times where we might feel like we're falling back because we're triggered again and again.
Mm-hmm. But the triggers are actually very beneficial because you made an excellent point, and I'm glad that you brought it up. Is that sometimes these powerful activations come in, and say, for example, the one for the peace on the 25th, and then all of a sudden we're feeling a lot of this other emotions and other things coming up, or triggers at this point in time, and saying, well, it didn't work on me or something of that nature. But in actual fact, the trigger was to stimulate more peace, which exposed more of the polarity aspect of it, the opposite, so that the opposite now is trying to purge itself out. So in actual fact, just the fact that you're having what we can deem as a negative experience from an activation is actually highly beneficial, because that's part and parcel of what the change needs to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm glad you brought that up.
Well, yeah. Thank you for elucidating that, because that really puts things into perspective, and it just kind of just brings a sense of relief to know that everything is as it's meant to be, and we're gonna get through this time, and we really are moving forward. And you know what? Just talking to you today, this makes me feel very different about how I'm going to look at my own internal world, and looking at the triggers and my reactions to them. I think I'll have a lot more maybe understanding and peacefulness towards myself. At least I feel that way now from this higher consciousness perspective. So, thank you so much, Franco. It's always a wonderful experience and a joy to talk to you. And I just really want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for all the work that you're doing for humanity. You're really a very special individual, and on behalf of all the humanity, I just want to thank you for being there.
Well, thank you. It's my pleasure, and I thank you for everything that you're doing and we are all doing, because we're all in it together. That we're all working together to really shift and upgrade our experience, and we're here to accentuate and assist each other, and we don't really look at who's doing what, but we're all appreciative of all the roles that we're playing to make this all happen. So thank you for making this available, and for the opportunity to communicate with you and to share with all your community and all the people, because the more we do that, the quicker we move things forward, and the more the quicker we see the transformation in all aspects of our experience and life and world.
Yay!
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm totally there with you. And gosh, it's just a great talk we had today. Wonderful interview. And just to repeat again, your website. And how do you spell DeNicola? It's D-E, right?
D-E, yes. Nicola.
Okay, so FrancoDeNicola.com is where people will be able to access any of your stuff, or even have a link to Masterpiece Life.
Yes, there will be a link to Masterpiece Life and to Collective Evolution, which is another huge website that's run by a few young people. One of them happens to be my son. That's on board with all of that, and they have a huge reach, and they're pumping out a lot of different information of all sources to help us walk through this. And the beauty that I find with collective evolution was when it was put together, it was that we worked very closely in upgrading their consciousness so that they did not come from a judgmental state of point. They did not come with a polarized state. They came with a very clear. So as much as there's a lot of resources out there, there's always the polarized aspect of it. This is wrong. This is what's happening, and whatever else, and look at it either in a negative way or project more negativity or judgment towards the people that are playing the roles. And so that was one of the things with Collective Evolution. It was the first thing I had to work with them. It was before it even came about. Was that we're not here to provide information similar to everybody else. Is the information is provided with a higher and open consciousness of clarity, so that we see the perfection in all that's there, and then provide opportunities to see things differently and to create shifts within themselves, or the shifts. So it is not biased. It's not judgmental or anything of that nature. The information is very clear, brought to the maximum without any bringing in old belief systems or perceptions. We will challenge old belief systems, or not challenge it, but expose it and make it look like what it is. But it's really to bring clarity. We're not here to bash experience, because you have to understand. I mean, many people, have a lot of judgment with the control structures in place, and at the ego mind, rightfully so, because they have played the victimizer role, and they've created or sustained us to be in a very restrictive state and still be playing, the game that we're playing. However, they were just a role player, and we've agreed to have that very powerful polarized experience, and that was the only reason they were able to do so. But they're tired of the game too. They want out also. So this is why now you'll notice that anything that they're projecting is so under the surface. They don't even try to cover it up anymore. It's because it's like we want you to see the the Wizard of Oz, the man behind the the curtain there, right? You know, the big illusion of this big, powerful, monstrous, projection out there. And meanwhile, there's a little man back there with, pushing the levers and so forth. They're leaving the curtains open now and say, look what we're doing here, and we're projecting this so that you can actually finally say, okay, we're not going to participate any longer with that that old modality, and that's all come together and work together. So it's a very different. So that's with Collective, and then of course with Masterpiece and other materials that we have available. They're all beautiful tools, higher consciousness to assist, and that's it.
I'm glad you spoke more about Collective Evolution, because I think they do have a very powerful message, and kind of exposing the truths that are around, but without having a judgmental or I don't know. It doesn't bring up fear. When I watch the videos or the documentary that they put together, it's very informative, but it's not like a fear mongering or let's go against the Illuminati or any of that kind of thing, which leaves people in a state of fear or anger, I think, a lot of times.
And especially when you're judging, you're basically playing with the same energy you're trying to transmute,
Right, exactly.
It's either you aim it at somebody or somebody else. It's the same thing. So there's nothing to be angry about. We've all co-created it. We've all supported it. And now it's time to upgrade it, so let's change it. But look at it this way. You have to understand that while we're going through this transition, we're advancing amazingly because of it. It's coming from one scale to the next. There's so much to learn, so much to experience, so much to become a grander aspect through it. So the fact that, we're going through these changes that are bringing up all these emotions or bringing up all these old fears and so forth, we're wrapping up eons and eons of lifetimes. We're wrapping up, amazing progress that was not possible before. So it's all absolutely perfect.
Yes, it is, definitely. And, this is a perfect time to have this conversation. And I'm sure that our listeners have gotten a lot of information to digest today. And, I was going to ask you for a closing comment, but I feel that you've given the closing comment, unless there's anything else you'd like to share with our listeners before we say goodbye.
Well, you're right. There was quite a few different closing comments there. But no, there's nothing else unless we start with something else.
I think the only thing I'd like to mention to people is that in the near future, you and I will be doing some more interviews, perhaps some video interviews and discussions that we'll be putting out on YouTube as well. And whenever you'll have time, I know you'll be traveling a lot and you'll be very busy, but I look forward to maybe focusing on some of the things that we couldn't discuss more fully today, just to let people know that that'll be available on my website. And once again, we'll have all the links below the video here so that people can access your work and the people that you collaborate with, as well as the old interview that we did, if people want to get some of the background information. Because there's a lot of great information here, and once again, you've just given me a great feeling of relief and feeling like everything's going to work out for all of us. And so thank you again, Franco. It's wonderful talking to you, and I really look forward to the next time we get to speak.
Yeah, same here. And like you said, everything is perfect. Everything is absolutely amazing at this time.
Yeah. So as we bring this to a close, I just wanted to say to everyone that to remember, like Franco said, we're all creator beings. We're all infinitely capable. And this is the time for us to all be coming together individually and collectively doing the work that we all know we're here to do, and to help one another and to bring about the new paradigm. And I'm all for it. So thanks so much for joining us today and listening to our talk with Franco DeNicola, and just wishing the best to all of you.
Bye to everyone.
So thanks again for joining us today on Whole Earth Healing Radio. I'm your host, CJ Miller, and you can visit my website at wholeearthhealing.com. Much love and namaste.